Welcome back, everyone. I am absolutely thrilled to welcome you to the 7th video in the series of research methodology titled Indian Knowledge System. I've been really looking forward to guiding you through this one because today we're examining one of the world's oldest, most comprehensive, and frankly most fascinating intellectual traditions. We're going to explore a framework that deeply challenges how we think about the world today. It's a system that takes philosophy, the hard sciences, the arts, and spiritual practices and weaves them together into one highly detailed, totally interconnected tapestry.
To really wrap our heads around this, I want you to think about how we usually learn things. Under our prevailing modern way of thinking, knowledge is separated into these neat, distinct little boxes, right? You've got the sciences over here, the humanities over there, and spiritual inquiry completely isolated from both of them. They rarely intersect. But if we look at the Indian knowledge system, or IKS for short, which stretches all the way back to the Vedic period around 1500 BCE, we see a radically different architectural approach to human understanding. Here, knowledge is entirely holistic. The human quest for truth isn't chopped up into compartments. Instead, your physical well-being is seen as inseparably tied to ecology, to spiritual discipline, and yes, to rigorous empirical science. It's like a giant puzzle where understanding the macrocosm of the universe literally requires understanding the microcosm of the human being. Grasping this fundamental difference, that is absolutely crucial for making sense of everything we're about to cover.
Okay, let's dive into this roadmap. We've got a lot of ground to cover, but don't worry, it all connects beautifully. We are navigating through 5 major areas today. First up, we'll look at a holistic view of reality. Next, we'll explore the architecture of language. Third, we'll cover science, math, and medicine. Fourth, we'll look at aesthetics, ecology, and society. And finally, we're going to wrap it all up with wisdom for the modern world, showing how these ancient ideas are still actively shaping our lives today. So, moving right into section 1, a holistic view of reality, the philosophical foundations. Let's start expansive and look at the vast philosophical bedrock that makes this entire system possible. At the very heart of the Indian knowledge system is a dynamically pluralistic foundation. Rooted in the ancient Vedic period, this system didn't just sit still. It evolved continuously alongside Buddhist and Jain epistemologies over millennia. Now, within the Hindu tradition itself, there are 6 orthodox schools of philosophy: Nyaya, Vaisheshika, Samkhya, Yoga, Purvamimamsa, and Vedanta. And it is so important to understand that these are not merely abstract, pie-in-the-sky theories. They form a robust, practically applied framework for inquiry. For instance, the Samkhya school provides a profoundly detailed dualistic analysis of reality, breaking the universe down into consciousness and matter. Meanwhile, the Yoga school takes those exact metaphysical concepts and applies them practically. It offers rigorous, step-by-step meditative methodologies to actually directly experience that reality. They're grappling with the ultimate nature of existence, sure, but they always bring that inquiry straight back into practical, disciplined daily life. And this brilliantly illustrates just how highly structured these philosophies were. Take the Nyaya school, for example. They focus deeply on logic and inference. They developed a highly sophisticated system of syllogism that remarkably parallels Aristotelian logic, but it was adapted specifically to structure debates around metaphysical and spiritual contexts. On the complete other end of the spectrum, you have Advaita Vedanta, which was popularized by the philosopher Shankara in the 8th century CE. This school offers a radical metaphysical perspective, focusing on the non-duality of the individual self, which is known as Atman, and the ultimate universal reality known as Brahman. Think of it like the relationship between a wave and the ocean. They appear totally distinct on the surface, but fundamentally, they are the exact same water. This specific framework of consciousness is so structurally profound that it is literally still inspiring modern philosophy of mind and cognitive science today.
Section 2, the architecture of language, sound as science. Let's transition from those foundational philosophies into how this ancient culture viewed language, because this is where abstract philosophy and concrete science seamlessly intertwine.
In the Indian knowledge system, language, or shabda, is not just a pragmatic tool for passing the salt or having a chat. It holds a central role as a primary source of valid knowledge, a concept known as pramana. To the ancient Indian thinkers, sound and language were treated as actual, verifiable proof of truth and reality, entirely equal to direct observation or logical inference. Why? Because they posited that the cosmic order itself was built upon fundamental vibrations. Think about that for a second. This completely elevates the spoken word from mere utilitarian communication into a profound epistemic science. In this system, naming something accurately is synonymous with understanding its true foundational essence.
This brings us to a foundational and honestly truly fascinating concept, a parushaya, which translates roughly to authorless and eternal. In traditions like Mimamsa and Vedanta, the foundational Vedic texts were considered a parushaya. They treated the structural sound of these texts as inherently sacred and self-existent. Because of this profound reverence, ancient Indian scholars dedicated meticulous, almost unimaginable attention to phonetics, known as shiksha, and metrics, known as chandas. You see, the oral transmission of these texts required absolute, exact tonal precision. A mispronounced syllable wasn't just a simple oops mistake, it was believed to actually alter cosmic reality and negate the efficacy of an entire ritual. This incredibly high-stakes environment forced the development of a strict, highly scientific approach to human speech. To really anchor this abstract idea into something incredibly concrete, we have to look at the grammarian Panini from the 5th century BCE. He produced a systematic treatise on Sanskrit grammar called the Ashtadhyayi. Now, what is absolutely mind-blowing about Panini's work is that it contains nearly 4,000 rules that function exactly like algorithms. He created a system that generated complex, virtually infinite linguistic expressions from a finite set of mathematical-like operations. Thousands of years before the invention of modern computers, Panini was essentially writing generative code. He formulated what we now recognize as Bacchus-Naur form syntax over 2 millennia before modern computer scientists developed it to write programming languages. It's a true masterpiece of linguistic analysis that perfectly anticipates modern structural linguistics, a real game changer. Let's move to section 3 and see how this builds into science, math, and medicine, empirical achievements. We're shifting gears into the physical sciences now, because the sheer volume of empirical innovation driven by this holistic framework is staggeringly huge.
Now, what's really interesting about this timeline is that when we track the mathematical breakthroughs within this system, we're seeing discoveries that eventually trickle down to influence the trajectory of the entire globe. In 476 CE, Aryabhata pioneered heliocentric insights and advanced trigonometric formulations centuries before similar developments occurred in Europe. Then you have Bhaskar II, in 1114 CE, advancing concepts that form the basis of modern mathematics, including the operational rules of zero and negative numbers. And by 1340 CE, Madhava of Sangamagrama, a key figure in the brilliant Kerala school of astronomy and mathematics, was pioneering infinite series expansions. He was essentially laying the groundwork for calculus long before Newton or Leibniz ever entered the chat. And these insights didn't just stay isolated in India. They were eventually translated into Arabic and transmitted globally, permanently altering the history of global science. The medical achievements of this era are equally astonishing. The life sciences in IKS are heavily rooted in Ayurveda, which was codified in monumental encyclopedic texts like the Charaka Samhita and the Sushruta Samhita. Ayurveda provides a holistic framework that integrates diet, lifestyle, and a massive catalog of herbal pharmacology to balance 3 primary physical energies, or doshas, vata, pitta, and kapha. But here is the empirical reality that usually stuns people today. Sushruta, often referred to as the father of surgery, was pioneering incredibly complex surgical procedures in the ancient world. For example, he detailed methods for rhinoplasty, actually reconstructing noses by using precise skin flaps grafted from the cheek or the forehead. He designed over 100 specialized surgical instruments and documented methods for using wine and cannabis as early forms of anesthesia. And remarkably, they were performing this highly empirical mechanical surgical work while still treating the patient's mind, body, and spirit as one complete holistic entity. Just mind-blowing.
Section 4. Aesthetics, Ecology, and Society. Harmonizing Life. Let's slow down the pace just a bit here and take a more contemplative look at how the Indian knowledge system harmonized human expression, the natural environment, and the social order.
When it comes to art, drama, music, and poetry, everything centers around a theory called rasa, codified in the ancient text, the Natya Shastra. Rasa translates to aesthetic flavor or sentiment. What is so utterly unique here is that while traditional Western aesthetics often prioritized physical form, symmetry, and precise visual representation, the Indian knowledge system looked at art through a deeply emotional, phenomenological lens. Rasa theory foregrounds the experiential and emotional resonance of the art. For instance, an artwork might focus entirely on evoking Shringara, the rasa of love and beauty, or Rodra, the rasa of fury. The artist's primary job wasn't to just perfectly mimic physical reality, but to perfectly evoke a highly specific, distilled emotional state within you, the viewer.
We see this intense focus on harmony documented vividly in their societal and ecological texts as well. We have texts like Kautilya's Arthashastra, which laid out brilliant pragmatic principles of statecraft, economics, and governance, but it integrated early, strict laws regarding ecological awareness and animal protection. Then you have texts like the Vrikshayurveda, literally the Ayurveda of trees, which detailed highly advanced agricultural techniques. This included everything from sophisticated soil classification to treating specific seed diseases, utilizing specialized plant-based fertilizers, and managing forests sustainably. The ancient Indians inherently understood the deep interdependence between humans and nature. They viewed this through the fundamental concepts of Rita, meaning cosmic order, and Dharma, meaning duty. They weren't just extracting resources for quick profit. They were engineering sustainable management practices because their core philosophy demanded harmony with the earth. They really hit the nail on the head regarding sustainability. But you might be wondering, how was this vast web of integrated knowledge actually taught and preserved? Well, traditionally, this occurred through the Gurukula system, where students lived directly with their teacher or guru. This immersive system heavily emphasized oral transmission, rigorous memorization, active philosophical dialogue, and, above all, ethical conduct. The curriculum was entirely integrated. You would learn logic, mathematics, medicine, and spiritual disciplines concurrently. The whole shebang was connected. And importantly, this wasn't just happening in small, isolated forest hermitages. The Indian knowledge system produced massive international hubs of higher learning. Universities like Takshashila and Nalanda were truly global cosmopolitan centers. Nalanda alone attracted thousands of students and scholars from as far away as China, Korea, and Tibet. It housed a colossal multi-story library that was so vast, historical records suggest it took literally months to burn down when the university was eventually destroyed in the medieval period. Section 5, Wisdom for the Modern World, Contemporary Relevance. So, what does all of this mean for us today? Let's talk about the so what, demonstrating exactly why understanding IKS is incredibly relevant for solving the systemic problems of the 21st century. We are actually seeing the active, modern application of this ancient wisdom in our global knowledge landscape right now. First, in healthcare. Modern integrative medicine is increasingly drawing upon the holistic, preventative principles of Ayurveda. By focusing on gut health, diet, and stress reduction, it's successfully complementing standard allopathic treatments. Second, in environmentalism, modern ecological movements are looking backward to apply the ecocentric vision of Dharma. They're integrating traditional Indian water and forest management practices to assist modern biodiversity conservation efforts. And third, in the cutting-edge fields of cognitive science, neurobiology, and psychology, researchers studying neuroplasticity and mindfulness are actively mapping brain states against ancient Vedantic and Buddhist meditative maps. They're using these millennial-old frameworks to better understand the hard problem of consciousness today.
So the crucial point is this. While the Indian knowledge system holds immense, verifiable value, scholars strongly caution us against romanticizing or essentializing it. Critical historical analysis is absolutely essential here. We have to impartially distinguish between empirically verifiable contributions, like the brilliant generative grammar of Panini or advanced early metallurgy, and mythologized pseudoscientific claims such as modern internet theories about ancient flying machines. To truly benefit from IKS today, we must utilize intercultural hermeneutics. This simply means we deeply respect and learn from this diverse epistemology, opening ourselves to new, holistic paradigms without ever abandoning rigorous modern scientific evidence and peer review.
I want to leave you with a provocative thought to reflect on today. Considering the incredibly interconnected, holistic nature of the Indian knowledge system we just explored, how might our modern world change if we stopped artificially separating what we know from how we live? What if our science, our art, our environmental policies, and our internal well-being were all treated as one integrated pursuit of truth? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. If you found this breakdown of the Indian knowledge system as fascinating as I did, please be sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe to this channel so you don't miss out on future deep dives. Next time, we'll be exploring another incredible framework, so stay tuned. See you then.